Hello everyone. In this video, we shall discuss the values of the six trigonometric functions given specific values of angles theta. And we are going to also focus on some examples wherein we need to consider the coterminal and the reference angles. Now, in the previous video, you learned how to derive the values of the six trigonometric functions among the axis angles, 0, pi over 2, pi, and 2 pi over 2. In degrees, these are 0, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees, and as well as the values of the six trigonometric functions among the special angles, the pi over 6 for 30 degrees, pi over 4, which is the 45-degree angle, pi over 3, which is the 60-degree angle. Now, so here, this is the table that summarizes the value. So, which means that if we're looking for the value of tangent of pi over 4, then we're going to look at the tangent row and the pi over 4 column. So, which means that tangent pi over 4 is equal to positive 1. Now, if we want to get, let's say, secant of pi, then we're going to look for the secant row and the pi column, which is equal to -1. But however, you don't need to memorize this particular table of values, but you just need to know the terminal points of the angles theta along the unit circle. And you also need to know the formulas of the six trigonometric functions using the unit circle. So to give you again a recall of those terminal points. So if our angle theta, let's say, is 0, the terminal point of theta is 1 comma 0. So this means that x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 0. And then if theta is 90 degrees or pi over 2, the terminal point of pi over 2 is 0 comma 1, which means that the x coordinate is 0, the y coordinate is 1. If theta is equal to pi, the terminal point is -1 comma 0, which means that x is equal to -1, y is equal to 0. And then for 3 pi over 2 or 270 degrees, then the terminal point is 0 comma -1, which means that x is equal to 0 and y is equal to -1. Now for the special angles, if we have pi over 6 or the 30-degree angle, the coordinates of the terminal point would be square root of 3 over 2 comma 1/2, which means that x is equal to square root of 3 over 2, y is equal to 1/2. And then for the pi over 4 angle or the 45-degree angle, the terminal point is square root of 2 over 2 comma square root of 2 over 2, which means that both x and y are equal to the square root of 2 over 2. And then for the 60-degree angle or pi over 3, the terminal point is 1/2 comma square root of 3 over 2, which means that x is equal to 1/2 and y is equal to square root of 3 over 2. So you just need to remember these and the terminal points. And then as well as the formulas like sine of theta is the y coordinate of the terminal point. The cosine of theta is the x coordinate. Tangent of theta is y over x. Cotangent of theta is x over y. Secant of theta is 1 over x. And then cosecant of theta is 1 over y. Actually, also you don't need to remember all these, so you can just maybe remember that sine of theta is y and cosine of theta is x. And then you can just get the reciprocals of these to get the secant and cosecant values. And then the tangent theta and cotangent theta are just based on the values of sine and cosine. So tangent of theta can be interpreted as the value of sine over the value of cosine. Cotangent theta is equal to the value of cosine over the value of sine. So for example, if we want to get, let's say, the value of cotangent of pi over 6, then we just have to look for the formula x over y. but the terminal point of pi over 6 must be used. So the terminal point of pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2 comma 1 half. So this means that x is square root of 3 over 2, y is 1 half, and this will be simplified as square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. This cancels out the 2, which means that cotangent of pi over 6 is equal to the square root of 3. Okay. Now, so these values of the six trigonometric functions are only based on the axis angles. When we say axis angles, those are angles in which the terminal points lie on either the x-axis or the y-axis, and also the special angles pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3, which are all in the first quadrant. Now, what if the terminal point of the angle lies on the other quadrants, let's say in quadrant 2, quadrant 3, or quadrant 4? Okay, so let's take a look at the following figure. So let's say this is our unit circle. Okay, and then we have, let's say, the 30-degree angle. So this one is the terminal point of pi over 6. So P of pi over 6 is equal to, this is square root of 3 over 2 comma 1 half. Okay, now let's consider theta is equal to 150 degrees. So 150 degrees in radians is 5 pi over 6. So 150 degrees is the following angle. So this angle is 150 degrees. Okay, so this is the terminal point of 5 pi over 6. So now the question is, what are the coordinates of the terminal point of 5 pi over 6? So to answer that question, we need to check out first the reference angle of 5 pi over 6. So if you recall, the reference angle is the angle formed by the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. So which means that if this is 150 degrees, then in the second quadrant, the formula for the reference angle is 180 degrees minus the given angle. So if 180 degrees minus 150, it's going to be 30 degrees. So which means that this angle here is pi over 6. So which means the terminal point of 5 pi over 6 will be the same as, almost the same as the terminal point of pi over 6. It's going to be square root of 3 over 2 comma 1 half. But we need to check out the appropriate signs of the x and the y coordinates. Now, since we are in the second quadrant belongs to the negative x-axis and the positive y-axis. So that means that the x-coordinate of the terminal point of 5 pi over 6 must be negative. So this means that the terminal point of 5 pi over 6 is equal to the negative square root of 3 over 2 comma 1 half. So that means x is equal to negative square root of 3 over 2 and y is equal to positive 1 half. So if we're looking for, let's say, the value of cosecant of 5 pi over 6, cosecant of 5 pi over 6 is actually 1 over the y coordinate of the terminal point, and the y coordinate is 1 half. So that's going to be 1 over 1 half, which is positive 2. But if we're going to take, let's say, the cotangent of 5 pi over 6, cotangent is x over y. So that's going to be negative square root of 3 over 2 over 1 half, which will be simplified into negative square root of 3. So which means if our angles or if our terminal points belong to quadrants 2, 3, and 4, we need to get the reference angles first before we can get the terminal points. Okay, so here in the next slide, you will see that on the first table that the angle measurements are in degree measurements. In the second table, we have the radian measurements. So if, let's say, the angle is 135 degrees, its reference angle will be 45 degrees. Now, in the following table, if the angle, let's say, is 5 pi over 4, then its reference angle is pi over 4. So if the terminal point of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2 comma square root of 2 over 2, that means the terminal point of 5 pi over 4 will also be, or will also involve, both square root of 2 over 2. But since the angle 5 pi over 4 belongs to the third quadrant, then both x and y must be negative. So if you recall, on the first quadrant, both x and y are positive. In the second quadrant, x is negative, y is positive. In the third quadrant, both x and y are negative. And in the fourth quadrant, x is positive and y is negative. So again, you just need to remember the terminal points of the special angles. And then for all the other angles, you will be basing it on its location, its quadrant location, in order to get the appropriate signs of the x and the y coordinates. Okay, so in the next slide here, we have the following unit circle having some of the angles that we have discussed so far. However, this particular picture does not show the pi over 4 angle. So if we're going to get the pi over 4 angle, this is the terminal point for pi over 4. And its terminal point has coordinates related to 2 over 2. Now for the angles having reference angle equal to 45 degrees in the other quadrants are as follows. So if we have this point here, okay, that will be the angle 3 pi over 4. This one is pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4 will have the terminal point of negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, positive square root of 2 over 2. And then in the third quadrant, the angle 5 pi over 4 will have terminal points, or will have the terminal point negative square root of 2 comma negative square root of 2 over 2. And then in the fourth quadrant, that angle is 7 pi over 4. And the terminal point will be square root of 2 over 2 comma negative square root of 2 over 2. So all these angles drawn just now have reference angles equivalent to pi over 4 or 45 degrees. So let's have an example in determining the values of the trigonometric functions. So first, let's evaluate sine of 5 pi over 4. So 5 pi over 4 is an angle on the third quadrant having reference angle pi over 4. So this one. So this is 5 pi over 4, and the reference angle is negative square root of 2 over 2, comma negative square root of 2 over 2. So since sine is the x coordinate, so sine of 5 pi over 4 will be the x coordinate. Since sine is y coordinate, then sine of 5 pi over 4 is the y coordinate of this terminal point. So which means it is negative square root of 2 over 2. Now for cosine 5 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6 is on the second quadrant, and its terminal point is, its reference angle is pi over 6, and cosine is defined to be the x coordinate. So which means that the x coordinate of this terminal point is negative square root of 3 over 2. Now for other examples, let's have tangent of 4 pi over 3. So 4 pi over 3 is located on the third quadrant, and this is the terminal point. So tangent is defined as y over x. So this is going to be the y coordinate, which is negative square root of 3 over 2, over the x coordinate, which is negative 1/2. So this is going to be positive square root of 3. Now for cotangent 3 pi over 2, this one is an axis angle and its terminal point is 0 comma negative 1. Cotangent is defined as x over y. So that's going to be x equals 0 over y is negative 1, which is 0. The next is secant of 3 pi over 4. So again, this figure doesn't show the angle 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4 is an angle on the second quadrant having a reference angle equal to pi over 4. So that's going to be here. And its terminal point is um, negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, positive square root of 2 over 2. Now, secant is 1 over x by definition. So it's going to be 1 over square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. So that will be negative 2 over square root of 2. And then if we rationalize this will be negative 2 square root of 2 over 2. So the 2 will cancel out. So the value here is just negative square root of 2. And then cosecant of pi. So pi is an axis angle. Its terminal point is negative 1 comma 0. And cosecant is defined as 1 over y. So that's going to be 1 over the y coordinate, which is 0, which is undefined. Okay, now let's look into some angles that are not uh, inside the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So if you take a look at the angle 35 pi over 6, 35 over 6 is 5 point something. So this is 5 point something pi. That is actually outside of this interval. So that means we need to get an angle that is coterminal with 35 pi over 6. And that will be inside the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So since 35 pi over 6 is 5 point something, we need to subtract the highest multiple of 2 pi that is less than 5 point something pi. So it's going to be minus 4 pi. So that's 35 pi minus 6 times 4 is 24 pi over 6. So 35 pi minus 24 pi is 11 pi over 6. So which means we're getting the value of cotangent 11 pi over 6. So the value of this thing is the same as the value of cotangent 35 pi over 6 because the two angles are coterminal angles and both of them have the same terminal sides. So 11 pi over 6 is located here on the fourth quadrant and this is the terminal point. And cotangent is defined as x over y. So which means we have x, which is square root of 3 over 2, over y, which is negative 1 half. So square root of 3 over 2 over negative 1 half is negative square root of 3. Okay, let's have another example here. So let's take a look at cosine of negative 29 pi over 2. So the angle is negative, so which means we need to get an angle that is coterminal with this one. So negative 29 pi over 3 is actually negative 9 point something pi. So if this is negative, we need to add a multiple of 2 pi. So if this is negative 9 point something pi, then we need to add 10 pi. So that's going to be negative 29 pi plus 3 times 10 is 30 pi, 30 pi over 3. And that's going to be pi over 3. So this thing is the same as cosine of pi over 3. And pi over 3 is on the first quadrant. And cosine is the x coordinate. So which means that's the x coordinate of this terminal point, which is 1 half. And then finally, let's have tangent of 27 pi over 2. So 27 over 2 is 13.5 pi. So that's also outside of the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So which means that we are going to subtract 12 pi. So it must be a multiple of 2 pi. And this expression is equivalent to 27 pi minus 2 times 12 is 24 pi over 2. And it's going to be 3 pi over 2. So tangent of 3 pi over 2 is the same thing as tangent of 27 pi over 2. And 3 pi over 2 is an axis angle, and its terminal point is as follows. And tangent is defined to be y over x. So if that's y over x, that's going to be negative 1 over 0, which is undefined. So this ends our video about finding or evaluating the values of the six trigonometric functions given specific angles involving coterminal and reference angle. So I hope that you learned something in this video, and thank you for listening, and please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.